The landless are on the move. For the ethnic Indian population of Brazil, land is sacred, not just a home, but the source of life itself. They're marching to the capital to demand what's rightly theirs. We're protesting against the government's 500-year celebrations of their massacre of the Indian peoples of Brazil. A lot of small farmers and peasants have died fighting for their land. Indian leaders have been killed during the government's forced expropriations. We've had enough. We're demanding justice for our people, and we want to be heard. The issue of land rights in Brazil has been fraught since colonial times. 45% of the land belongs to 1% of the population, although the Indians have tilled the land for centuries. In 1996, President Cardoso signed a decree allowing Indian land demarcations to be challenged, which has led to mass expropriations and hardship. Brazil's peasants, already organized within Christian farming communities, joined forces to found the movement of landless rural workers 10 years ago, with the aim of achieving land reform. They now have over 1 million members. We're demanding land to work on, as well as pay and jobs, as unemployment is very high. For every household of 5, there is only one breadwinner, and every firm that's privatized by the government has to make several employees redundant. So we're demanding an end to privatization and redundancies. Under Brazilian law, land automatically becomes the property of those who occupy and work it after 10 years. Here, near the small town of Piracicaba, 1,200 families set up camp to stake their claim on this fallow land. Just as they were hoping to replace their simple tents with more permanent wooden huts, the original landowners turned up and evicted them. As is often the case, the military police were involved, leading to violent clashes. We've had to move around everywhere, from a camp in São Carlos to Castelo Branco, then to Porto Feliz and on to Arembe. And this is where we've ended up. This man is one of the many city dwellers who've joined the movement. We asked him whether he'd moved from camp to camp too. I used to work for Mercedes-Benz, but I was made redundant 6 years ago when they moved the plant out of Campinas. I was unemployed for a while. I was fed up of being at home and out of work all day. When this movement was founded, a lot of my friends joined it, so I decided I would too. So the landless people no longer consist solely of farmers and peasants, but also the urban poor, who can no longer cope with life in Brazil's cities. The minimum wage of $4 a day is often earned in slave-like conditions on sugarcane plantations and alcohol distilleries. Land offers the only real alternative for a decent life. We asked this camp coordinator where she would rather live, on the outskirts of Sao Paulo or here in the camp. I'd rather be here in the camp, where we have our peace and quiet. You don't get that in the city. Everyone's too busy rushing around. We're afraid in the city too. During the day, we just get on with our business as usual, and it's okay. But at night, there's nearly always a gang shooting on the way home. The city has become really dangerous. I certainly don't feel safe there anymore. Violence, however, is not just a city phenomenon. On the 15th of April 1996, military police opened fire on over 1,000 landless people from El Dorado, killing 19 and injuring 40. Local doctors report that some demonstrators had been shot in the back at close range, suggesting executions. The officers responsible for the massacre were only brought to trial in August last year. In cases where squatters have been killed, abused or tortured by the military police, they can expect rough justice, and are lucky if the president even bothers to send along an investigator. The 3-day trial treated the landless with little sympathy and didn't soften the racist prejudice of the Brazilian middle class towards them. Hundreds of activists gathered in front of the courts to protest. A local TV film contradicted police reports that the demonstrators had shot first, and they're outraged at the blatant travesty of justice. Although the government has promised them land, redistribution continues to be thwarted by judges and the military police supporting large landowners. The demonstrations are angry but peaceful. They are also there to honour the dead. But of course the military police are standing by, ready to deal with the protesters as they see fit. The judge's verdict is read out. Not guilty. All of the police officers are acquitted. As the main defendant is led out under police protection, cries of murder surround him. This time, it's the demonstrators themselves who exercise restraint, narrowly avoiding further bloodshed. For the landless, this was just further evidence that Brazil's courts are biased against them. Their leaders want to be better prepared for the second trial, which is about to follow. We're a social organisation, and we need to increase social pressure to widen our support base. We know that society at large, not just us, is outraged by this verdict. Our best response to it is to improve our organisation of the rural poor and to push forward with our programme of squatting land. Occupying undeveloped land puts pressure on the government and enables us to weaken their economic and political power. So the landless marches and demonstrations are continuing to achieve this. They're squatting land all over the country to mark the government's 500-year celebrations. Court buildings are being stormed to demand real justice and human rights. The odds are against them. The government have provided no infrastructure for the little difficult terrain it's handed over. Yet there is no doubt that the landless of Brazil are on the move and making a difference.